Welcome to the Voice of Grace. I'm your host, Grace, aka Light Looper. I'm an intuitive frequency channel for past, present, and future realms. I'm a singer, an artist, and a mother. You can follow me at Instagram and YouTube at Light Looper, where I regularly post new harmonious affirmation jams, channeled frequency journeys, and events. This podcast is a place where I'll be sharing my personal life experiences. Because hey, if we can all relate, maybe we can help each other along the way. Thank you, and I'll see you on the other side. Hi everyone. So first off, I was hoping to have my patio doors open and have it all beautiful and breezy and sunny because the weather's beautiful, because I didn't have time to take you for a walk this time. But my neighbours are playing quite loud music. It's super loud. So and they're very loud outside, so I thought, don't do that. Shut the doors. Right, so wow, yeah, I've got some things to share. It's very echoey in here, and I did think about going into my understair studio, but we'd gain on sound, but we'd compromise on vision. So I thought I'd go for a happy medium, sit in my living room, be a bit echoey, but you can see me because I'm actually putting this version on YouTube as well. I think what I'm going to start doing is, when it feels right, just record some of them audibly. No, they'll all be recorded audibly because they're podcasts, but I'll record some of them visually. I'll video some of them and I'll have them on YouTube, because why not? I'm sitting here recording. I might as well film myself at the same time if I can. So, okay, this week has been huge. Oh my blinking blimey goodness me, it's been so huge. So I released my album. I have an album on Spotify and Apple Music, and I mean, I only use Spotify, so I just say Spotify, but like all the mainstreaming platforms. I have an album. But not only that, I created this album from scratch. Like, I freaking made it from scratch on my iPad. And I have the most basic iPad, I have the most basic music making software, and I don't have much on there in the way of, what are they called? They're called Apple Loops on here, samples. I don't have much in the way of samples, so I've made a lot of it like quite literally from scratch, and yeah, it's kind of blown my mind. I've mastered the levels myself, which was a labour of love, and yeah, just done it all myself. Obviously done all the vocals. I even used my own artwork for the album cover, and creating this thing totally from nothing and totally being created by me was like, or is just the most incredible experience. Like, it's the most incredible feeling. And I used to have this a lot when I used to paint. Obviously some of my paintings there. If you're watching, if you're just listening, then you can't see them. But if you are just listening, I do have an Instagram with some of my artwork on, and lots of other funky stuff on my Instagram too. Light Looper on Instagram. So I used to find this with my paintings a lot. Like, I would buy a canvas, I would just have some paints, and I'd be like, oh my goodness, I'm quite literally creating something from nothing. Like, having a blank canvas, I always love that analogy anyway with things in my life, but having a blank canvas, quite literally, and then like creating this artwork on it, and then it becomes that. Go and have a look on my Insta to see what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's fascinating, and it's really like, I think I've always seen the gift in myself with that. And yeah, so like I have that feeling now with my album, And I've always had this feeling of like wanting to do everything myself. Sometimes I can see it's like coming from a place of ego and stubbornness, but a lot of it is authentic and really that part of me that just really wants to achieve and show myself that I can achieve it. A bit like, someone would go to the gym and have an ideal weight or, I don't know, body image that they want to strive for. I have that with creating, and I'm so driven and I just have this vision and I just make it happen. But having said that, on the complete flip side and the paradox and the opposite end of the spectrum of that is the fact that after I created this and after I released it, so it got released last night, I was kind of overwhelmed with all these feelings that were completely and utterly contradicting my core beliefs. So my core beliefs were that things like this don't happen to people like you. Success like this doesn't happen to people like you. People like you aren't clever enough to achieve this. People like you can't make music and can't release music. Or one of the stories or one of the things that I found that kept coming up, which was so goddamn interesting, was that each step of the way, I'd record the music and then I'd be like, oh, this is the part where the microphone breaks, or this is the part where my iPad crashes and I lose all the files. And then I'd get over that bit, and then it'll be uploading the music. Oh, this is the part where the distributor says that my files aren't the correct size and I can't do it. And it's every fucking step of the way, I noticed the story in my head of oh, this is the bit where it doesn't work out. And then, oh, no, wait, this is the bit where it doesn't work out. And then as I kept going through those, and I'd kind of witnessed this in myself to a degree. And then by the time last night, I fell asleep quite early, and then I woke up at midnight, and then I suddenly just saw my album on Spotify because there's a slight delay. Suddenly saw my album on Spotify, and I was just hit with this wave of fucking emotion of just everything contradicting and conflicting with my core beliefs of things like this don't happen to people like you, and all the stories I mentioned earlier. And I sat in bed for an hour and a half and my heart was racing. No joke, I was meditating with that racing heart and that shortness of breath. Even though I was trying to regulate, I could not regulate myself. I was meditating with that for an hour and a half, I'm not even exaggerating. And so I sat with that and I witnessed that, and I was wow, this is such a strong program for this to really be playing out for this long. And then this morning, I just woke up to, I'm just going to I want to get myself a cushion. Hold up. I'm going to get a cushion. I wonder when the time will come when I don't interrupt myself in podcasts. Who knows? Gotta be comfy though, right? So this morning I was on my way, I dropped my daughter off at school, and then I thought, I'm going to put my album on through Spotify, even though I've heard it 10,000 times. But I'm going to play it through Spotify. It's like hearing it on the radio. And so I put it on and I just started bawling my effing eyes out. I'm driving along and I'm movie crying. If anyone just walked in at that point where you're listening to this podcast, they're going to be what the fuck are you listening to? I'm listening to Grace fake crying on her podcast. So I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm really going for it. I'm letting it flow. Gotta let it flow. Just let your love flow like a mountain stream, and let your love flow. Da 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 dreams and I freaking love that song. It's amazing. So I let it flow, and it was kind of this deep realization of my soul communicating with my present self. So my present self obviously had it would be my past self that would have had the limiting beliefs. So it was kind of my present self, my soul, that was just you've always known you can achieve these things, but we just had to break through those limiting beliefs. And it was just letting go of those last few bits of disbelief, because that's what it felt like when I was crying and I was listening to it. It was kind of like an integration period of just letting go of like those last bits of disbelief, and also crying because it was like all those times I told myself I couldn't do it subconsciously. I didn't even realize really half the time that I was putting this limit on myself. And we all have these limits. Like, we all have a comfort zone of some sort. We all have a limit which we set for ourselves based on our life experience in this life and in past lives. And that's so okay. But it's very interesting when you start to have an awareness around that and you start to really notice it and witness it. And actually, when you slightly push yourself outside that little comfort zone, that little, is it parameter when it's like around? I think it's parameter, like the outside. I don't know. Someone explained it once. I can't remember. When you push yourself outside, it's kind of like rings on a tree. I'll look at it like that. Like, you push yourself out the ring that's like furthest to you. And then you're like, fuck, okay, this feels uncomfortable. Okay. And then on the other side of that ring is like liberation and pride and freedom. And then the next ring, and then the next ring, and then the next ring. And you just keep going until, we're limitless essentially, aren't we? It just depends, I guess, where you're aiming for. But this was a pretty, I guess, far out ring for me. This was something that I dreamed of doing since I was a kid, and it's so huge, and I can tell it's so huge because there's no immediate, as far as I can see now, there's no immediate kind of gratification. Is that the right word? Like, there's no immediate reward externally. The only reward I've got from this is internally, which tells me that it's very authentic. Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps and tingles actually all over when I say that. My body is really communicating with me that it's really deeply authentic. So ever since I was little, I've always loved music. Music has always been the thing that has just showed me unconditional love, actually. Like, true unconditional love. Like, music would never let me down. Music would always be there for me. And being able to sing along to songs was just always available to me, and it was my comfort. And hearing harmony in songs, like, as a kid, oh my gosh, like, hearing the harmonies people would sing in songs, I'd fixate on them. I'd obsess with the harmonies in the songs, and I'd just be so fascinated by them, and I would just love hearing them, hearing the harmonies in songs, and just hearing beautiful melodies in songs. And I would pick out so many intricate parts of songs, and they would just touch my soul, and I would feel these deep emotions whilst listening to music as a kid. Like, it's like every song had the potential to make me cry. Like, every song I ever heard as a kid had the potential to touch my heart in some way. Even like dance music, like, I grew up during the 90s and there was a lot of rave music happening. And it was all about fucking love, wasn't it? Because everyone was on MDMA or whatever, and acid. Like, so there was a lot of songs about love, but, even the superficial, whatever, if we want to call it superficial, we want to label it, like, even the songs that weren't on the exterior, like, meaningful, to me, they still had so much in them. Like, every song had so much in it. Like, I would just dance so much as a kid, and I would just feel the music running through my body, and it's really interesting. This moment come up in a breathwork journey. This is why I have the awareness around it. My partner actually is a breathwork instructor, and he holds amazing breathwork sessions. And this one breathwork session, it took me back to the moment when I was a kid and I was dancing at the school disco, which I used to love. Oh, so much emotion attached to these moments. And as I was breathing in this breathwork journey, really activated the sympathetic nervous system. So I'm really like going for it, getting into my body. And then travel back to this one moment where I'm dancing and I'm so free. I'm so free when I'm dancing, and it showed me the exact moment in my childhood where I formed the program that music is unconditional love. And at a time as a kid where I needed a lot of love. I needed a lot. And I was a very scared child. But it showed me that moment where I decided that, and I knew that music was unconditional love. There was something in it. There was something there. I formed this belief, and this was a moment of real positive programming. It's a real example of how these programs we form as kids, like, they're not all bad. Because everything we're doing, we're saying, we're acting out, it's coming from some kind of program. So I guess it's like 50-50, depending on how your childhood was. But this was a real positive memory and moment that I got taken back to, and it showed me the power of what I do now and just how much I've embodied vibration and frequency and sound and melody and rhythm, and how it will never let me down, because it is love. It's all vibration. Vibration is love. Everything is frequency. It just depends what frequency you wish to express and which frequency you wish to operate at. I'm feeling this real deeply. I knew when I decided to do podcasts that they would actually start to turn into emotional processes. I'm open. Whatever these are supposed to be. Again, I'm doing it for me. So if anyone finds value in that, then perfect. And I know quite a few of you have, because you've been reaching out and expressing your gratitude. So thank you. So I guess that brings me to a place of present now, having achieved one of the biggest things. I didn't even mention, actually, I started to talk about myself as a kid, and I didn't actually mention the fact that, this has been one of my biggest dreams. I was so connected to music, and music was so connected to me. And I kind of just never thought it would happen, but I just thought, what if I was one of those people that made their own music, that had their own album back when I had CDs? What if I was one of these people? And now I am, and I still haven't fully processed that. And it's so different for everyone, because there's so many people out there making music. There's so many people doing it and not having a wild emotional roller coaster. That is because we're all different, and we all have different comfort zones which we stretch to, and different goals and different achievements based on who we are. And this is mine, and it's huge. And it's all divine timing, because tomorrow as well I'm going to be diving into another real big milestone for me. I'm going to be providing my frequencies for a dear sister of mine's breathwork event. And I'm going to be solely providing the soundtrack for the whole journey with my loop station and my voice and my drum. And I've done it many, many times. I just open up the channel and it flows out. But there's that comfort zone. There's that comfort zone where I've only ever done it, I guess, on my terms, or I've only ever done it in small groups, or I've only ever done it when I've planned an event and I've been invited to an event, and it's a big event, and it's very, very, very aligned for me, this event. And I can feel some of that discomfort coming up. I can feel it. It's like, oh, are you sure you want to do this? Are you, it's going to be big. It's going to be powerful. Your soul knows when something's going to be powerful, when something's going to transform your life. Something within you knows that that's about to happen. And all the resistance will come up at that point, and it will try and convince you that it's scary. Because by nature, we have so much protection up, and we so easily stop ourselves from evolving, because our ego is there literally as a massive protection method. So if something new is coming in, it's quite often that the ego and the program, because the ego is just formed of all these programs, the programming will go like, oh, hang on a minute, this is unfamiliar. I don't recognize this. I don't recognize this feeling. I don't recognize this scenario. We shouldn't do this. We shouldn't do this. And so once you have awareness around that, it's a lot easier to navigate through that. Still feel the discomfort and still feel into it and hear what your inner child is telling you. But just having the awareness is a godsend. So yeah, big week for me, hey. I feel like it's the biggest week of my goddamn life. So my album, Ecstatic Activations, is on all major streaming platforms now. It is basically a chakra balancing album. I made it for the event, Ecstatic Activations, which was an ecstatic dance event. That was the most successful event I've ever ran. Might do another one, probably will. This is the album from the event. And I am balancing each chakra in each track. It's made for dancing. It's very upbeat. Every track is upbeat, and every track has channeled frequencies relating to each chakra on it. And there, like I said, it's got my artwork on the cover. I'm so proud of it. Please check it out. Please share it with anyone who you think will resonate with it. And I think I will leave it there for today. Thank you for listening. Please share this podcast and share the love. And I will be back soon with more wisdom. Bye. Thank you.